Gerald Feierstein, who joins us now. He's also a distinguished senior fellow on US diplomacy at the Middle East Institute and the director of its Arabian Peninsula Affairs program. Really good to have you with us, sir. We know that for months now, the White House has sought to try and calm the situation between Israel and Hezbollah. It also went as far as warning Israel that in the event of a full-scale war between Israel and Hezbollah, it might not be able to fully defend Israel. Now we've seen this escalation in hostilities. What's your view? Do you believe it will get worse before it gets better?
It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I mean, that's really the big question. And I was listening to Rami Khoury, who was on with you right before. It's not at all clear, and it does seem that both sides are trying to calibrate their responses in a way that does not necessarily trigger that kind of massive escalation that certainly the Biden administration is most concerned about. They are engaging in these tit-for-tat kinds of exchanges of fire. And the big concern is not that either side wants to go to open conflict. As best as we can tell, neither side really wants that. The biggest concern will be a miscalculation, that something happens that crosses a red line that requires the other side to respond massively. And we haven't seen that yet. Even this event this evening doesn't seem to have triggered that kind of requirement on the side of Hezbollah.
Yes, and we can expect some sort of a response from Hezbollah. We know in the past its leader, Hassan Nasrallah, has warned that it would reciprocate in the event of any Israeli attack on the Lebanese capital. What sort of a response could we expect from the Iran-backed group?
Well, I think that what we'll likely see is something that Hezbollah does that, in their view, is reciprocal. It's on the same plane as the Israeli strike. So they will try to hit something, perhaps a military base, as Rami Khoury suggested, or some other facility that will demonstrate again Hezbollah capabilities, but won't take the conflict to a next level.
And Gerald, we know that much of Israel's defences at the moment are, are focused on Gaza. Is Israel in any position at all to launch a war on another front, in this case, a war with Hezbollah?
Well, I think that, that's an important question, and I'm not sure that the military in Israel is really very eager to see another front opening up. They are very much, engaged in combat in Gaza, and I think that the last time there was a full military exchange between Hezbollah and Israel, that was 2006. I think over the past 18 years, Hezbollah has advanced in their capabilities by exponentially, and therefore, and we saw the Israeli ministers themselves saying that they don't believe that if there is a full conflict, that they're in a position to defend critical infrastructure in Israel, the electricity grid, other kinds of critical sites, major population centers. And so if there is a slide into a full conflict, I think we may see a lot of death and destruction in both Israel and Lebanon.
You mentioned the 2006 war between Israel and Hezbollah. That was the last time the two sides launched in a wide-scale war. That conflict lasted 34 days. There were many casualties on both sides. Do you believe Israel right now has zero desire to engage in a similar war at this stage, given the fact that it is preoccupied in Gaza?
Well, I think that there are Israelis and there are Israelis, and I think that the people who would be responsible for conducting those kinds of military operations are probably a little bit more reluctant than some of the extreme members of the Israeli government, the Smotriches and Ben-Gvirs, who seem always to be looking for opportunities or excuses to launch military attacks on their neighbors. So I don't think, I would be surprised to hear that the senior military leadership in Israel is really looking for an expansion of their conflict into new fronts. And keeping in mind that if there is a major conflict with Hezbollah, we've already heard from the Iranians that they may feel compelled to join in. And we know that the Houthis would also do their best to open another front in the south.
Given that hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah have escalated, including up until this attack on Beirut, do you believe that this has essentially uncovered a failure in terms of US foreign policy? Because we know for many months now the Biden administration had been trying to simmer down tensions between the two sides. It seems those efforts have fallen on deaf ears. Is Washington losing its influence on Israel right now?
Well, I think it's a glass half full, glass half empty kind of a situation. It's true that the administration and Amos Hochstein, who's been the point man for the Biden administration in trying to negotiate with the Lebanese and Israelis, has not succeeded in getting to the point that he's been trying to get to of deconfliction, de-escalation, tension reduction. But we've also seen that both sides have been careful about how they respond to one another. And so we haven't seen, remembering that early on in the conflict, there was a great deal of concern that Hezbollah may join in, may respond to what was happening in Gaza much more aggressively. Okay. They haven't. And so the administration is still working at it.
Ambassador Feierstein, we will have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. We appreciate it.